The 20th of July, 1944. Just a few hours after German military officers attempted to assassinate Adolf Hitler at the Wolfslair, his East Prussian headquarters at Rastenburg, the Führer keeps his appointments, including a meeting with Italy's fascist leader, Benito Mussolini. The plot was the culmination of efforts by several groups in the German resistance, which hoped that Hitler's violent death would signal an anti-Nazi revolt and overthrow the Nazi German government. In the days that follow, Adolf Hitler orders a massive hunt for conspirators, and their executions will continue to the last days of the war. Among the suspected conspirators is a highly decorated general who, during the Battle of Moscow, disobeyed Hitler's orders to defend every patch of ground, digging trenches with howitzer shells if needed, and withdrew his troops to save them. His name is Erich Hoepner. Erich Kurt Richard Hoepner was born on the 14th of September 1886 in Frankfurt an der Oder, then part of the German Empire. In 1890, Hoepner's family moved to Berlin, where he attended Kaiserin Augusta Gymnasium, a prestigious high school for the children of the educated Berlin bourgeoisie. In 1910, he married Irma Gerbauer, the daughter of a manufacturer, and the marriage produced 2 children. To receive advanced military education and training, in 1913, Hoepner joined the Prussian War College in Berlin, the top military school in the country. When the First World War broke out, on the 28th of July 1914, he was deployed to the Western Front as a company commander and staff officer. Hoepner was promoted to captain of cavalry, and by the time the war ended on the 11th of November 1918, he was decorated several times, including the Iron Cross First and Second Class. In the new Weimar Republic, which was the name given to the German government from 1918 to 1933, Hoepner remained to serve in the Reichswehr, the German army, which the Treaty of Versailles had limited to 100,000 men. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi Party came into power in 1933. In 1936, Hoepner was promoted to the rank of General Major, and in 1938, he was given command of the 1st Light Division, an early armored unit that was part of the core of the expanding German tank force. In early 1938, the dismissal of key military figures weakened the influence of the armed forces within the Nazi regime. First, War Minister Werner von Blomberg was forced to resign due to the scandal surrounding his marriage to a former prostitute, which compromised his judgment and credibility. Several days later, Commander-in-Chief of the German Army, Werner von Fritsch, had to resign also due to fabricated allegations of homosexuality. Hitler took further advantage of the situation by replacing several generals and ministers with men even more loyal to him, and took more effective de facto control of the German military, which de jure he already commanded. Hoepner was one of the generals who was dismayed by the political interference in the army and the loss of experienced military commanders. As a result of this interference, and because the Sudetenland crisis unfolded, Hoepner joined the Oster conspiracy. It aimed to overthrow German leader Adolf Hitler and his Nazi government if Germany fought Czechoslovakia over the Sudetenland, a border area of Czechoslovakia containing an ethnic German majority. Led by General Major Hans Oster and other high-ranking conservatives in the military, they opposed Hitler's actions, fearing they would bring Germany into a war that they believed it was not ready to fight. Hoepner's role in the plan was to lead the 1st Light Division toward Berlin and seize key objectives against the SS forces in the city. The conspiracy collapsed with the appeasement of Neville Chamberlain and Edouard Daladier, and the signing of the Munich Agreement on the 30th of September 1938. In March 1939, Hoepner led his Panzer Army in the occupation of Czech lands and was promoted the next month to General of the Cavalry. The Second World War began on the 1st of September 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. Just before the German attack on Poland, Hoepner told his troops that their mission was the merciless annihilation of the enemy. During the invasion, Hoepner led the 16th Army Corps and swiftly advanced 230 kilometers to reach Warsaw in just a week as part of the 10th Army. In October 1939, he was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross in recognition of his significant contributions to military operations. The German invasion of France, Belgium, Luxembourg and the Netherlands started on the 10th of May 1940 and became known as the Battle of France. These countries, along with France, were conquered within 6 weeks. Hoepner and his corps joined the 6th Army for the Battle of France, leading attacks on Liège, Dunkirk and Dijon. In May, the SS Division Totenkopf was assigned to the 16th Corps, sparking ongoing tension and dislike between Hoepner and the SS. The SS Division Totenkopf, also known as the Death's Head Division, was an elite unit of the Waffen-SS, which was the military branch of the SS. The division became notorious for its brutality and committed numerous war crimes. As the Battle of Dunkirk unfolded, reports surfaced of SS troops mistreating prisoners. On the 24th of May, Hoepner issued a clear order to his units. Any soldier found mistreating prisoners would immediately be court-martialed. 3 days later, soldiers from the SS Division Totenkopf executed nearly 100 British prisoners who had surrendered in the Paradis massacre. When Hoepner heard about the killings, he demanded an investigation and called for the dismissal of the SS Division Commander Theodor Eicke if it was proven that British prisoners were mistreated or killed. Eicke defended himself to Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, claiming his troops were fired upon with dum-dum bullets by the British, which are considered illegal under international law because they cause excessive injuries. Despite the allegations, Eicke and the Totenkopf division faced no consequences, and the issue was eventually dropped. Nonetheless, Hoepner, who never joined the Nazi Party, continued to despise Eicke, whom he labeled as a butcher, for his reckless disregard for life, and he maintained a low regard for the Waffen-SS. After the campaign in France ended, Hoepner was promoted to the rank of Colonel General in July 1940. During this time, the German High Command started planning Operation Barbarossa, the code name for Nazi Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union. Hoepner was chosen to lead the 4th Panzer Group, which was tasked with advancing towards Leningrad as part of the Army Group North under Field Marshal Wilhelm von Leeb. In May 1941, Hoepner issued the following directive to his troops. The war against Russia is an essential phase in the existential struggle of the German people. It represents the age-old conflict of the Germanic peoples against the Slavs, the defense of European culture against Muscovite Asian flood, and the repulsion of Jewish Bolshevism. This fight must aim at the destruction of present-day Russia, and thus be conducted with unprecedented harshness. Every combat action must be guided by the iron will towards the merciless, total annihilation of the enemy. In particular, there is no mercy for the bearers of the current Russian Bolshevik system. Operation Barbarossa began on Sunday, the 22nd of June, 1941. 3 million German soldiers were reinforced by Finnish, Romanian, Hungarian, Italian, Slovak, and Croatian troops. Within weeks, German divisions conquered the Baltic republics of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. The 4th Panzer Group, led by Hoepner, played a crucial role in the push through the Baltic states towards Leningrad during Operation Barbarossa. Their campaign began with major advances, like securing bridges over the Dvina River in northern Latvia. Hoepner, while on the Eastern Front, demanded the ruthless and complete destruction of the enemy. In July 1941, he instructed his troops to fairly treat the loyal population, noting that individual acts of sabotage should simply be charged to communists and Jews. Like all German armies on the Eastern Front, Hoepner's Panzer Group carried out the Commissar Order, which called for the execution of Red Army political officers upon capture, violating established wartime laws. From the 2nd to 8th of July, the 4th Panzer Group executed 101 Red Army commissars, and by the 19th of July, 172 executions had been reported. By late July, positioned south and east of Narva, Estonia, the 4th Panzer Group was in a strategic spot to attack Leningrad, but lacked the strength for a decisive victory. On the 29th of August, Field Marshal Wilhelm von Leeb ordered a blockade of Leningrad, anticipating that the city would soon be abandoned by the Soviets. In late September, Hoepner and his 4th Panzer Group were transferred to Army Group Center. This group was tasked with advancing through the central part of the Soviet Union toward the Soviet capital. Hoepner's role was to prepare for Operation Typhoon, the German assault on Moscow. The German attack went according to plan, and in early October, the 4th Panzer Group successfully encircled the strategic city of Vyazma. This maneuver effectively cut off vital Soviet supply lines and communications, crucial for defending Moscow. Despite this key victory, Field Marshal Kluge, who was in charge of the 4th Army and to whom Hoepner was subordinated, ordered a pause in the advance to consolidate forces. This frustrated Hoepner and led to significant tensions between him and his superior. Hoepner believed his units could simultaneously defeat the encircled Soviet troops and continue their march towards Moscow. He argued that this strategy would maintain pressure on the Soviet defenses and address any threats behind their main advancing line, thus keeping their offensive momentum. On the 7th of October, the first snow fell, but quickly melted into slippery mud quagmires, significantly slowing the German armored groups and allowing Soviet forces to retreat and regroup. After the Vyazma pocket was cleared on the 14th of October, other German units could push forward. However, heavy rains and the onset of the Rasputitsa, a period of mud that made roads impassable, frequently damaged vehicles and slowed their progress. Hoepner himself came within 30 kilometers of Moscow, but by early November, his forces were worn down by previous battles and adverse weather. They also faced increasingly strong Soviet defenses. The essential breakthrough to encircle Moscow proved elusive, hindered by shortages of supplies and effective Soviet resistance. By early December, the momentum of the offensive had faded significantly. On the 5th of December, facing bleak updates from his commanders and realizing the goal was out of reach, Hoepner had to halt the planned attack. On the same day, the Red Army launched its counteroffensive. In January 1942, Hoepner asked the new leader of the Army Group Center, Kluge, for permission to pull back his overstretched forces despite a stand-fast order issued by Hitler. Kluge promised to discuss the matter with the Führer and told Hoepner to prepare for withdrawal. Anticipating approval and eager to avoid further risks, Hoepner ordered his troops to begin withdrawing on the 8th of January 1942. Concerned about how Hitler would react, Kluge quickly informed him of Hoepner's actions, which infuriated Hitler. Hoepner justified his decision to Field Marshal von Kluge, stating, "Sir Field Marshal, I have duties that stand higher than those to you and those to the Führer. These are the duties to the troops entrusted to me." Hoepner was dismissed from the military that same day by Hitler for cowardice and disobedience. This led to the loss of all his orders, decorations, pensions, and the revocation of his right to wear a uniform, which was in violation of the law and military regulations. Hoepner challenged this decision in court and won, successfully reclaiming his pension since judges at the time could not be dismissed by Hitler. On the 6th of June 1944, under the codename Operation Overlord, US, British, and Canadian troops landed on the beaches of Normandy in France. After the German conquest of France in 1940, the opening of a second front in Western Europe had been a major aim of Allied strategy during World War II. At this time, many German military officers shared two basic convictions: that Germany was being led to disaster, and that Hitler's removal from power was necessary. On the 20th of July 1944, Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg placed one of two bombs in a briefcase under the table in Hitler's briefing room in the Wolf's Lair. However, he was unable to arm the second bomb in time, and after Stauffenberg left the room, the briefcase was coincidentally moved under the heavy support of the table leg. It detonated, but failed to kill Hitler. This was not, however, immediately known to the conspirators. An ally at Hitler's headquarters cut off all communication as Stauffenberg returned to Berlin to coordinate the implementation of the plan codenamed Operation Valkyrie. At first, the plan seemed to go smoothly, as the reserve army began to take action. But delays, confusion, and poor communication robbed the coup of its initiative. Eventually, the fact of Hitler's survival was broadcasted, and the plot quickly unraveled. In the days that followed, Hitler ordered a massive hunt for conspirators, which continued for months. Hoepner, who was intended to be the commander-in-chief in the homeland war zone if the plan succeeded, was arrested at his home by the Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, in the early hours of the 21st of July, and was consequently tortured. He refused an opportunity to commit suicide and demanded a trial. Hoepner was brought before the Nazi People's Court, presided by Roland Freisler, a fanatical Nazi judge. Like other defendants, including Field Marshal Erwin von Witzleben, Hoepner was verbally attacked and humiliated during the trial by being made to wear ill-fitting clothing and not being allowed to have his false teeth. Under the Nazi practice of collective punishment, Hoepner's wife, daughter, son, brother, and sister were also arrested. The women were sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp, and the son ended up at Buchenwald. Erich Hoepner was 57 years old when, on the 8th of August 1944, Freisler sentenced him to death by hanging. By Hitler's explicit order, the sentence was carried out on the same day at the execution site of the Berlin-Plötzensee prison. After the failed assassination attempt, Hitler had ordered that those found guilty should be hanged like cattle. Hoepner was hanged with a meat hook and a thin hemp rope, which the people who were not from the prison staff called a piano wire. In some cases, this barbaric method of execution caused the death struggle to last for 20 minutes. There were no tears shed for Erich Hoepner. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.